All right, up next on the podcast, you're going to hear from Logan Yates. And Logan, I've known since she was a little girl, and she just has an amazing story of a incident that took place while she was at work in doing her duties as a paramedic firefighter. And she had an incident inside of a working fire where her mask became dislodged and um, she ended up getting flown to a burn unit. So, just an amazing story. She ended up connecting with us through after her accident. She ended up coming and connecting with us at our gym and ended up coming to work with us. And just, I feel like we were all able to come together and help Logan through her journey. So, let me know what you think. Excited for this episode. Look forward to hearing from you. All right, everyone, I'm excited. This is going to be a ultimate second chance on the Second Chance podcast. I've got who I consider a good friend of mine. Um, Logan Yates is with us today. Logan is now a nurse here in Virginia and has worked her way through nursing school and just kicking butt and taking names. But she has a background of many years inside of our public safety network as a firefighter, a firefighter paramedic. I think, if I remember correctly, at the pinnacle of your time. So, Logan's got an amazing story. She's worked alongside of me in fitness for a few years, and we just connected. We connected in many ways of life, and even when she was a little bitty kid, we found that out later that we had been around each other many years ago when she was in a wedding with some friends of mine, and then she came back into working with us through our gym, and we both knew that during this time that Logan had a significant life's event, and then as we go through our conversation today, we're going to dig into that and let her share something that I think is super important for her to get out. And I've been encouraging her to do this for years. So, Logan, how are you? How's everything going?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So a couple of guests this week. Keith Hanks comes out this week. He's going into the fire department at 18, born into it. I'm founded at 15 years old. That's all I knew how to do for about well over 15, almost 20 years. And you have your own story of how you got into public safety, and what did that look like for you?
So I don't have any family that worked in public safety prior to starting in this field. I grew up, you would see them go up the road, and I was like, man, those people look cool. Told my mom at a young age I was gonna be a firefighter when I grew up, and she was like, yeah, okay, all right. And then kind of got into high school, was thinking about what I wanted to do as a career, what I wanted to major in college. And actually had a friend that she was actually she had kids our age, and I saw her on the rescue squad, and I sent her a message and was like, hey, I think I want to think about joining the rescue squad. And she was all about it, made sure I got in the door like that week. So joined the rescue squad. She got took an EMT class, enjoyed that. I think that was between my junior and senior year of high school. So I was applying to colleges as well. Knew I needed fire cert to be able to make it a career. So took a Fire 1 and hazmat class, Fire 2, got all that, and high school ended, and I decided I wasn't old enough to go career yet. And to appease my parents, I knew I had to go to college. So I went to Jefferson College of Health Sciences at the time, got my bachelor's in emergency services, got my paramedic, and went to work right after that. Started in 2018 and as a career firefighter paramedic.
So just for everyone who's listening, you started off in a rural department. Would be more, just make sure I'm right here. And then your time at Jefferson brought you more to urban, to the city style um, work environment as well. So you kind of spent a little bit of time in both.
Yeah. And then went full time back in a rural setting.
Yeah. What kind of call volume is going on when you're a volunteer? Are you at the busiest
Um,
station? Are you at the we wish we had more work, or what did that look like?
Definitely was not at the busiest station. Um, you had days where you'd have a bunch of calls, but as far as um, that went, didn't didn't run a ton, but enough to stay busy.
And you're at an age at this point in time. How old were you when you got your EMT?
I was 17.
So you couldn't ride as the lead attendant or AIC until you were 18.
Correct.
Yeah, they changed that in like 1990. I had gotten mine. I rode AIC when I was 15 on a couple calls, and then
Okay.
they changed that like in 90 or 91, and I couldn't ride. I just know when that
Get away
happened
from you.
because I had just gotten my certification,
Yeah.
and they changed that. And I don't remember the exact reason why, other than responsibility and things along those lines. Being able to operate, a lot of it was insurance rules for just vehicle operations in general too.
Yeah.
Did you like doing the EMS side better or the fire side, or what did that?
Well, initially I was all about EMS. Knew I just had to get my fire certs to check that box and get a job. But as I started doing more training and taking more classes with that, I kind of started drifting more towards the fire side. It's definitely more adrenaline rush. Um,
Yeah,
at that age, it was more of an adrenaline rush. You got to get those good calls, but then you weren't spending all day running back and forth to the ER.
yeah, and for again, and that's the other thing. Like when you look at how we came up, was I was in a rural department. You may have a 45 minute to an hour commute to the hospital, but that's
Mm-hmm.
that's one direction. So you may spend 2.5 hours on a call, depending on what emergency room you end up at. So it's one call realistically could kill half of a or quarter of a shift sometimes just because of your proximity to your hospitals.
Yep.
And then while you're on that transport, everything's chilled down. Everyone else is working all the Action Jackson calls. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I know
Lucky
exactly.
to
Yeah, yeah, that could be frustrating while you're stuck riding on transport when everyone else is staying busy. Did you? Um, Paramedic school is full of training, but then you're doing your fire training? Are you training up? Are you taking all the courses and the classes? And what kind of how many fires are you fighting at this point? Like when you're 18, 19 years old?
Um, it was kind of few and far. Like I said, it was a rural area. We had a couple fires, but a couple good, I guess, good fires for me to get into and get some experience. But a lot of times, unfortunately, where we were, by the time we would get there, they were pretty heavily involved. So it wasn't any of the stuff you see like in big cities where they're getting there as soon as the fires are getting involved.
Yeah, yeah. Response times here, a lot of things are running really good just because it's volunteer system, paid
Mm-hmm.
supported now. Most everybody has a paid in, but they still have to get there.
Yeah.
Um, so that are you paid at this point in time in your rural
Um,
department?
no, I'm probably still just volunteering at this point. I was 21 before I went paid. So that
And that,
last semester of paramedic school, as a full-time career firefighter, I thought EMT, and
yeah.
was over transition. So yeah,
What
last
year
semester of
are
paramedic.
we? What year are you in here at 21? Are we? What are you? 2019, 2018?
2018, towards the end of 2018 is when I went full-time, and then 2019, that spring is when I got my paramedic.
I got you. Yeah. Um, and your department's like y'all train, you do all the things, everything's um, it's like whatever fire department is. But that kind of takes us um, into where you have a hot call and you work from 19 to 20, right? So you're looking at about a year or so on the job, or maybe 18 months or so
Yeah.
on the job. And then you guys have a pretty significant fire. So walk us through, um, and we'll pause where we need to just for some clarity. You know me, I like to stop and ask questions because I get into this. But
Yep.
walk us through your May 2nd, 2020.
Okay, so from the time I graduated paramedic school to that day, I just doing 9, 10 months, 6 months, full time, rode a medic unit full time, cross trained. So there was fire in the county. We went and then had there with the EMS or fire assignment. We would get assigned. So May 2nd was a Saturday morning. Came in. I think we ran an EMS call. Actually, was clearing the hospital. Had a structure fire. Went to it. It was a garage or a barn. I can't remember exactly. We had that. It went smoothly. Came back to the station. Got everything cleaned up. Got back in service. And we think we had gone to the grocery store and we're getting stuff to get ready to cook for dinner. And while we were in the grocery store, we got turned out for another structure fire. I remember hopping in the truck, like we booking it out of the grocery store, get back to the truck. And I remember thinking, as we turned out of the grocery store lot and got on the main road headed towards that fire, I remember thinking, like we could see the plume of smoke. We knew it was going to be a working fire. And I remember thinking to myself, like, man, it's the best day ever. Full time on a medic unit, and I'm going to 2 structure fires in a day. So we got there and we were assigned to pull a second hose on. When we got there, the engine pulled in. We were right behind them when we were arriving. They driveway, pulled a line to the basement, and we got out. We got dressed. We got ready to go. By that time, we were kind of, I guess, being on the medic unit, you're kind of 2 steps behind an engine. They're dressed and ready to go when they leave the station. We have to get dressed on scene. So it takes us a second to get there, and once we get there, to be ready to go to work.
So
By the time,
all right, little glitch there. But what I was asking is for just so everyone understands, rural EMS responding to a fire versus being on a truck. You guys are carrying your firefighting gear inside the ambulance with you. So getting dressed means you get to the scene, park your ambulance, go put your firefighter gear on, grab an air pack, and then you're pulling lines or whatever. Is that kind of the flow, or?
Yep, that's exactly right. We have some components on the outside of like the box of the truck that we keep all of that in.
Yep, and then that makes most of the time here is everyone has a firefighting. If you're on an ambulance, like you're explaining, is you have a firefighter responsibility if you go to a fire. So you guys have been assigned to pull the second hose off.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean every car is different. If there's just what's the need when we get there, and for this one, it's to pull that second line.
Yep. So just that helps clear up like why we have to get dressed. What do you mean? Why don't you dress? That's what I was kind of just so everybody would understand is we carried our gear in addition to everything else on the ambulance in the rural areas, and then it's it's your main department, and then you have on a structure fire you typically have multiple jurisdictions responding in as well. So you're the second in truck behind. You're the second dude or the second truck that just came in, right?
Yep. So we came in right behind the engine. The next due fire company was not very far behind us. They actually were out doing something else and were able to not be very far behind us. By the time we'd gotten dressed and gotten up to pull that second line, some of their guys were coming down as well.
Yeah.
It actually kind of helped with pulling that line.
Yeah, cool.
So fire was in the basement. There's already a hose line in there. We were assigned to go to the floor above. We went, 2 guys went in the door. I went in third. Kind of went in, stopped at that first turn to go down the hallway to push some hose down the hallway for them as they went further down the hall. Not really sure what happened from there. I just remember sitting at that corner and thinking, they're not really asking for much more hose. And I remember telling the guy in front of me that we probably need to back out and regroup. And from there, the next thing I knew, I remember starting our way out. Somewhere in there, I wish I could tell you more of exactly what happened, but I don't know exactly what happened. I remember taking a big breath in of hot, at that time, I guess it was hot gas, and immediately thinking, oh crap. I tried to key up and call Mayday. I think I got Mayday out like once and just couldn't get any more words out. So I hit the emergency button on my mic, dropped down to my knees, and remember thinking, I got to get myself out of here. This is not a good situation. And feeling something soft in front of me. I don't know whether it was a couch or a bed or what it was. But from there, the next thing I remember was waking up in a burn unit at Wake Forest.
Yeah. So you're third in, they're advancing, and then there's a point in time when your mask has come off.
Mm-hmm.
You're in a mask and helmet. But at some point in time, your mask gets dislodged and exposes you to the hazard environment. Is that?
Yep.
You never knew what caused that. Is that? Am I right? Or
yeah.
How did you? Now you get to fill in what everyone else told you. What were the events? What took place between that where you don't know? What was the events that took place between? I just inhaled some toxic fumes, so I just woke up in a burn unit.
So there was one of the other guys with me. He was able to figure out that we were in a situation. He called the Mayday, thank goodness. And dispatch had actually picked up my traffic. I was on the incorrect ops channel. But thankfully we had dispatchers that were on top of it working that day. They picked up my traffic. They picked up the other guy's traffic, and they were able to make sure command outside knew what was, that they needed to send RIT in after us. Fortunately, there were also some extra guys on the front porch that were able to come in, and within a few minutes, they had me outside. And from there, they RSI'd me and flew me to Wake Forest.
What does RIT mean?
Rapid Intervention Team. So they are there. They typically stage on the alpha side of the structure, and they are there to basically save their own. In the event that a firefighter goes down, gets hurt, there's a collapse, anything like that, they're the first ones in to come.
And then what was the RS? What did you say that?
RSI, Rapid Sequence Innovation. So they, apparently I woke up in the back of the medic unit for a little bit. I don't remember it. But gave me some medications and intubated me, put me on a vent, just to protect my airway in case of swelling or anything like that.
So I've told you before, I'm on the phone with then a Bedford County officer. We're just shooting the breeze. And I was listening to all this through his radio. And he would give me, he's like, we were talking, he would be like, yeah, something's going on. And then he would fill in the rest with me. And we ultimately, that's how we had closed our call off. Is he goes, hey man, that's way more serious than they got something going on. I'm gonna hang up so I might head that way, or I'm gonna listen to what's going on, right? Just to be. That's what we always kind of told you the first time it came up. I was like, yeah, I kind of rode that call with you. I kind of rode the very, very distant listening to all that go down. So you're intubated, sedated, intubated, life flighted to a burn unit, right? And what happens then? Tell me what does that look like for you?
Um, so I don't remember much of it. I think I went through the ER at Wake Forest, and they got me up to their ICU. I think I was intubated for 12-ish hours. I just know it was around midnight whenever they woke me up. Um, I stayed intubated until early the next morning, and they finally extubated me. And then I was only there for a little bit. It was right in the middle of COVID, so
Yeah.
I had no visitors there. It was just me. They wouldn't let anybody from the fire department in, none of my family. So it was just me and the nurses. I had great nurses that were they were calling my family for me. They were FaceTiming for me. So it was nice to be able to see them, but they got me out of there pretty quick so I could get back home. And
Was there you never lost heartbeat?
no, I was in respiratory arrest for a period of time, but no, I never went in cardiac arrest.
Yeah. And your team was there. Quick actions, right? Got you.
Mm-hmm.
They got everything moving like everyone's trained to do.
Yeah.
And this is May of 2020.
Yep.
And then ultimately, you're released from the hospital and then back to work.
Yep. I was out of work. I think I took about 2 weeks off and went to light duty for about 2 weeks and maybe a little more. I'm not exactly sure, but I was back to work within a month or two.
Yeah.
Back to full duty.
Was going back to work easy, or what was that like?
The department I was working for was great about making sure I was ready to go back. Not just physically, but also mentally. Made sure I went through training and was put into some situations, of course, in training, some situations that might kind of trigger things again, but
yeah,
they made sure I was ready to go back.
Now you get to play devil's advocate. You know, you're 4 years removed, 4 years and a few months. Do you feel like you were ready?
Physically, I think yes. Fortunately, at the time this happened, I was probably in some of the best shape I'd ever been in. I think had I not been in good shape and continued to work out following that, I would have had a much more difficult recovery. Definitely wasn't easy on airway, lungs. I had a couple issues with reactive airway, asthma, maybe things like that. Mentally, bounced back pretty quickly. You don't realize how big the fire service family is until something like that happens, and they're all carrying you through. It was probably 6 months to a year before it really hit me. Kind of that delayed stress reaction, and kind of had to take a step back and regroup again. But again, fire service is a big family that tends to carry each other through.
It's a lot of encouragement. They don't. It's not made to be negative, right? It's not made to. But it's made to be super encouraging and let you. They get behind you and they let you know that you can do this and you are good, and they watch you and they see how you respond. I think. What year was it fall of 2020 that you came to my challenge, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's where I tell you sometimes, me and a lot of guests talk about this, is it's nice to have, for you, let's face facts, it was nice having me that knew your situation, but also knew the struggles with mental health and a lot of those things there. And as time went on, so you end up at our gym, right? And come in the challenge, and I'm always we're always hiring rock star coaches, right? And I love public safety folks because we just have a heart for helping. And our shift work is all over the place. We get up at random hours, and the gym's like that as well. You know, you're coaching class at 5:30 in the morning, and so being a fitness trainer and being a firefighter paramedic, it kind of goes. The hours can be the same. So that's why we had asked you to come in and work with us. But like, the same token was we got to have some really good conversations just about where you were in your headspace and things that you were dealing with. And I think that's where I saw you really when you was able to share it with people that had no connection. That one day that I would put you on the spot, and I was like, "Hey, Logan's got a story she's gonna tell. Logan, tell your story." And everybody's like, "Oh, what do you got to say?" And then all of a sudden, they're all going, "What?" Because they're totally. It's nice, Logan, and I want to commend you because it's nice to watch you get that vulnerable. Because I think it really was key. I think it was because it's hard to cry around your firehouse. It's hard to get emotional when you're amongst everybody who thinks you're a superhero. And being able to come into our space, and that's what I want. A lot of people that may hear this, I want them to know that, and that was something I think was key for me. Was I'm not saying that you got to step away from those people. I'm saying if you can get a fresh set of ears on your situation, you're going to find new perspective. What are some things that like just that you dealt with after that? What was your headspace?
Just very following that. Like I said, for the first few months, I was good. Just kept kind of pushing through. Was determined to not let that stop me. And then kind of just like really struggled with like anxiety. Everything made me nervous, and I felt very worked up all the time. Whether it was at work or just like in my day-to-day life, I was just very on edge all the time. Felt like if I didn't have control of a situation, like complete control, I was not probably a very enjoyable person to be around. So, I mean, had to work through that. And I think it was because I felt so out of control when that situation took place. I completely lost control of the situation I was in, and ended up in a way I didn't really. That wasn't, I guess, was just kind of like traumatizing. And so I just never wanted to be in a situation where I wasn't in control again.
Yeah. How did you overcome that?
I can't say that I 100% have. I still like to be very much in control of what I'm doing each day. But it was a lot of just having to open up and have those vulnerable moments where, and being open with my family, with whether it was my partner at work, at home, just my friends, and just being like, telling them how I was feeling, how like when I would get in those situations and where I felt like I was losing control or was getting very nervous about it, just telling them like, hey, this is how I'm feeling and this is why, and just being vulnerable and open to that. And once people saw that and I wasn't putting up this wall and being completely being this tough person all the time, it made it easier to kind of move forward with the support.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with acknowledging the feelings, but also sharing them. You put that elephant right in the room, and everybody's got to talk about how that elephant feels, right?
Yeah.
You put that feeling right in the room, and you have to acknowledge it, and then it creates an understanding of why you feel that way.
Yeah.
Do you still deal with this today?
From time to time, it's definitely, I don't feel like it hangs over my head every day like it used to.
Yeah.
I still have days where I'm like, oof. But for the most part now, it's like definitely more.
You ever go back out there and kind of walk through it any?
Now I kind of just try to avoid it.
Yeah, there you go. I got you. I didn't know if your department had done that. Some would, some wouldn't.
So they did an investigation, and had, I mean, they have, and I reviewed all of that stuff once they finished it. But then I kind of had to tell myself, like, there's the situation that happened to me. There's learning to come from it, but there's no point in dwelling on every detail of it. I've got to move forward and have peace with it.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great approach. Is there? Did you did you did you find new habits or things that you installed in your day to day life that really helped you find? And you'll never find closure is not the word I want to use, but like just find a little peace. Is there things that you did or that could? And what I'm asking is like somebody's listening to this who's been where you are. How did you really create that new routine for yourself?
So one thing that definitely helped me through all of that was just staying like consistent with the gym, having like those hard workouts to kind of just like blow off all the frustrations. And then when I got done, like being tired, but I also was using that as motivation to become a better firefighter. Um, at 5'4", like I'm a smaller female. I have to work hard. Like I have to be in shape to be able to do my job to the best I can. Um, and so just like using that as motivation to become better, instead of dwelling on all the things that went wrong, I just try to find the pieces that I really needed to strengthen to become a better firefighter is what I try to focus on.
That's a great way of putting it. Finding the pieces that I needed to make better, and pieces of yourself. That's a really cool way of approaching that. Because not every first thing I did coming out of the academy was put fitness on the shelf. I'm like, I'm not going. No, why would I go put myself through that hell? I didn't understand it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think about tip top shape and all the things that I worry, that I'm concerned about today. It didn't make sense to me why I would go run miles to just to ride around the car all day, right? So yeah, so that's I totally get, and like what you're saying there is that we find that you find that a lot of times to where fitness is just not a priority. And it wasn't for me. And I'm not throwing shade to anybody that is, but they really could listen to this and know how important it is and how they can start today.
I should tell people, like going into the fire service, like what your advice. It's hot and it's heavy, and I'm not saying it's hot like as in fires are hot. They are. Don't get me wrong, but just being in the gear and doing the work, you're gonna sweat and you're gonna be tired. There's nothing. Every piece of equipment you pick up in fire service for me is a little bit heavy. So the stronger I can be, and the more like the better shape I can be in cardiovascular wise, the easier it made it for me to be able to do my job and to get to kind of hone in those skills that I needed.
yeah. Yeah, because it's not, you're, when you say hose roll, that's still 50 pounds, 45 pounds, right? And what's that, a 20-foot section, 50-foot section? I don't remember. 25, there you go, right? So, but that's still, you're talking about a lot of weight for a 21-year-old lady, 5'4", to lift. And it's just part of it. But good conditioning makes that lift so much easier. Um, did you have any, we touched on it, did you have any physical after effects? I know the mental side, and we'll continue to talk about that every conversation you and I have, but did you have any physical?
For a while, like I would get really frustrated because I would hop on the treadmill and try to crank out that 2 miles like I used to be able to do. And I just couldn't do it. Would get so out of breath. I still probably, and nursing school really put fitness on the back burner. But I never got back to that point where I could just hop on the treadmill and crank out a couple miles like I could before. So just trying to, my lungs have never gotten back to exactly what they were before. I had some issues with like reactive airways. So if I was working out and just like some sense or something would trigger it, and I would have like basically it almost felt like allergic reaction, like airway swelling, and I would just that would pretty that would wreck
Yeah.
me for the day. But other than that, that's all pretty well subsided. I just gotta continue to work on getting back in shape.
It's all right. Just make an effort, doing something every day, right? Make a little difference. Still, you're nursing now. Still volunteering at the same station. Same.
No, I have quit volunteering. I'm still part time in the county. I'm not gonna let that paramedic go.
Yeah. Worked too hard to get it.
Yeah, and I still enjoy it. It's definitely a lot more enjoyable now that I don't depend on it to pay my bills. I can just go and enjoy it when I'm there.
Yeah. No, I get that. That's some people's outlet. I encouraged a lot of those folks to come to the gym and work with me. Right. So that's how we got Corey.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, I think the whole goal today was just kind of recognize and put it out there because it is. It's something that's connected you and I. Um, it connected you and to me, and I was really happy that everything evolved the way it did with you being with us at the gym. And I just think that, and when I tell people that, Logan, it's not me being selfish thinking I got members, but I think there's a lot of power inside that room just to help someone like in your situation of positivity and non. We didn't have we had a few we had public safety people there, but we didn't have people from your department. It's just a different era, and there's nothing wrong with it. I love the guys from your department, the girls, and would do anything in order for them. I just think even if they were in this situation, I would be like, yeah, this is a great place for you to go and be around positive people. Just because you had this near death experience, and not everybody gets to experience near death. And then live to tell about it, right? Come back and just be able to share this story with the rest of the world. So I wanted to tell you that. And I want to tell you just like how proud I am of being this guy that understands how all that works and then playing this small role in your recovery and just watching you go through all that. And just kind of just text you, right? We still stay in touch and of things that are going on and whatever's. But I wanted to tell you how much I appreciated it, and I'm glad that the team and I and Crystal and all of us could just be there and help get you on to where you are and just be around you and just kind of support you through all that. Gave me a lot of purpose. I never really got that deep in telling you that, but I looked hard at that. I looked really hard at that relationship and just what we were able to do. So,
Yeah.
what would you?
Appreciate the opportunity to.
Yeah.
That was more therapeutic to me than I knew at the time.
Yeah. Well, it's all of us too. What would you? There's someone that's listening to this right now going, and it may have been, it may have been a similar situation. It may have been. Is there any advice that you could put out there for someone that's been in that similar situation? Anything you want to, any parting words you'd like to leave with someone who might listen to this that's in wherever, that's been where you're at, or might be this, they may be listening to this 2 years from now and go through something like this, and they're just finding out who you are and this story that you have. What advice would you have someone who gets to have this life flight experience and a negative fire and has to be off the job? What does that look like?
I mean, I guess if I could tell myself this at that time, and what I would tell anybody else is just find those pieces of weakness that you can work on. You can't go back and correct every mistake you've ever made, but find those pieces of weakness that you can work on to make yourself better.
I'm writing it down. It's good stuff. Now, wrote it down. To the gospel now. That's really good, and I thank you for sharing that with me and with everyone else that's going to hear this. And hopefully, we'll meet back and we'll cover some. We'll debrief something else here at some point in time. But I really wanted to just to get this on my podcast and just kind of highlight all the important things that you did up till that point, and then that how significantly insignificant that 24 to 48 hour period is in your life now. It plays such a big role, right? But look at you now. You're a nurse. You've moved on with life, but you still have this moment that I think is such an inspiring moment for everyone else to hear. And I've told you 100 times, not a lot of people's done what you has gone through what you've done, and lived this little fraction of little minute part of your time here. Not everybody has lived that, and for you to be here to tell us that story, it's definitely worth me putting out there. So
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
yeah, can't thank you enough.